Hey, hey everybody. Please feel free to skip this because I'm just going to talk about something that I just kind of realized may be a bit of an epiphany. So there was a power cut at my place, and the whole room was completely pitch black. And as I was sitting on my chair, just doing nothing, no music, no external stimulus, just looking at the darkness. I mean, can't really look at it, just absorbing the darkness, I believe. I immediately noticed an internal conflict within myself where a part of me was comfortable in the darkness, not seeing any information and kind of being comfortable with the idea of having nothing around you. But at the same time, I felt this inner turmoil, sort of a conflict where there was a quieter feeling as well, like, something that exists within you but is too complicated to be translated into language. I felt like it was a part of me that was conditioned all my life to believe that, when you're in the dark, you are seen by a class of entities called the jinn. Now, if you don't understand what the jinn are basically supernatural entities in the Islamic world. So, yeah, there was this part of me that kind of wanted the darkness to go away, that knew for some reason that something sinister was to come out of this if I were to, just stick around in the darkness. As Nietzsche puts, if you stare into the abyss for too long, the stare gazes back into you. I guess that's the fear that existed underneath. And when I kind of looked at it, it gave me a sense of how unsupervised our brains are even in our adult lives. Because if you truly think about it, it's not just the fear based conditioning that happens around supernatural things. I think in our childhoods, we are conditioned using a lot of fear tactics. The most dangerous of them all, trust me, is not the jinn with the bigger teeth. The most dangerous of them all is the fear of not fitting in that's installed in us. Now, fitting in back in the caveman times meant being alive, because if you didn't fit in, you'd be isolated from the group. And eventually, back in the wild, when we were used to living in caves and a random bear would just, claw us out of existence, those threats don't exist anymore. But the survival tactics don't seem to have updated even a little bit. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, growing up, we are taught a lot of survival mechanisms, like you must turn yourself into whatever the room asks of you, so that you don't risk standing out, sticking out, and not in a weird sense. Like I'm not saying our conditioning teaches us just to follow like sheep. While it does to a great extent, it also encourages us to kind of like make a lot of money and do whatever. The kind of sticking out I'm talking about is where when you say something and people in the group feel like whatever you've just said threatens their worldview, it kind of destabilizes that dynamic you have with that group or you have with that human being. Because the moment you try and threaten someone's worldview, the default setting that we've grown up with is, if someone questions my reality, that is an enemy. But the question I stuck around with even after leaving Islam, even after leaving major schools of philosophy, disagreeing with some of the best thinkers that I thought had figured it out, the only thing that it taught me is that if you want to be more like yourself, if you want to embody who you truly are and leave behind the conditioning that you were sent with, the key is to stick around with questions. Let that uncertainty sink in. When you're trying to question whether A or B is the right school of thought to follow, I would say maybe have the courage to realize that A and B are both quite imperfect. Not imperfect in the poetic sense, but they have gaps because A is trying to solve the problem from A's perspective, B is trying to solve the problem from B's perspective, which, if you're still with me, leaves you outside of the bigger frame. And you can't essentially understand what A is missing if you're completely subscribed to A's ideology, or you can't really know what B is actually trying to get at if you completely miss A's point of view. That being said, I think one of the old folks, it was either Aristotle or Socrates, they said a sign of a higher mind, higher, a sign of a more evolved brain is the ability to entertain ideas without having to subscribe to them, or the ability to hold two paradoxical statements with absolute peace in your brain, not having them wrestle with each other, not having them go against each other where you must pick one truth, right? I think the key to finding yourself, finding more of yourself, is to see where you stand after you have been a part of both of those perspectives. Not when perspective A is given to you because you were born in a specific part of the world or because your friends believe in that. I say you try and explore more perspectives. You try to explore the perspective of the man on the chair who is rational, who's looking at the darkness and understanding that, yeah, this is kind of nice. And also the child, the scared child within you, who still hasn't, forgotten the conditioning that he was packaged with. And you kind of understand the fears from that kid's perspective as well, and that gives you more leeway or runway for putting your putting your argument across, your rational argument across to the child within you who's scared. The only way to do it is to come down to that child's level of understanding and then have a conversation. You can't explain don't be scared of the dark to a child within you that has kind of had the same life uh, from the very first day, been conditioned with things that he didn't know much about, but were just conditioned and he was made to believe those things. You can't really argue rationality with that child by showing them quantum physics. No, you'll have to go to that child's register, that child's vocabulary, emotion, to be able to kind of put your thought across to the table. Anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it's good. Stick to it. It's weird, and I think weirdness is the key to finding yourself.